What's up, Matt?
Good afternoon. How you feeling?
Oh, a little bit better. A little bit of a tight back, that type of thing.
You got any 500 milligram ibuprofen on you?
They haven't helped any.
I got one. That should fit you.
They have not helped any. So I'm going to see if I can go get something a little stronger.
Got whiskey in your bottom drawer?
Yeah, no doubt about that. No doubt about that. So you're gonna have to carry this one a little bit. I've been trying to manage that all morning, but it's getting better. What's going on with you?
Everything's good, and I was just sitting here thinking about I don't know why the word popped in my mind. The difference between seduction and negotiation. I would much rather be seduced than sold, and
Yeah, yeah.
I,
Isn't that the
I
art?
think
That's like the art of the deal, right?
yeah. I was thinking
Uh,
about how it might be my topic to broach with some of our readers or listeners. See what they think.
Let me just log in one thing here, and I will be ready to go. There we go. All right, so it looks like you launched everything. We're good to go here. Um, so welcome to Lunch with Lumbermen. Matt Lehman, Lehman's Lumber Guy at Ashley Buckle Materials Exchange, mxlumber.com. Matt, you bring one heck of a big group with you when you roll in.
Good.
So let's talk a little bit and update ourselves on what you and your crew have been talking about in the past week and what's happened in the market. I don't think kind of what we've been looking at here is any surprise to you. I saw you on the show yesterday listening in. How did you want to start? Do you want to bring up your FDP and look at it, kind of talk that through?
Well, I was thinking, I've been thinking lately, like there are so many people that are very good at giving market synopsis and analysis of what's going on, and Greg and Matt do a great job of doing that. And what I would like to do is try not to regurgitate the same things over and over again, so you guys can come to that show and get the. These guys are traders. They're in it. They got their hands on it every day. They're buying. They're selling. They know the pulse of what's happening moment by moment. And if I could encourage you guys, then that's one of the advantages that a broker has. If you don't have any brokers in your repertoire of getting the information, those are great places to go. If you got a trading floor that's got southern yellow pine and spruce, eastern and western spruce, dry hem fir, coastal hem fir, green Doug fir, OSB. If you got a trading floor that handles all that stuff, then your broker really has a lot of information for you. And if nothing else, it's worth throwing them a bone every once in a while just to keep that information coming. And I'd really encourage you to not blackball brokers just because you think they got a bad name, but they're really good sources of
Oh
information.
yeah, when you think about it, Matt. I mean, brokers sit in between the flow, right? They're sitting in between all the selling and all the buying. So where you and I, as a buyer, may want to buy one truck every 2 or 3 weeks, they're going through 100 trucks a day from 70 different locations to 150 different locations. So they've got the pulse on the market. That's called being in the flow.
Yeah, and I remember when I was trading, when I was a broker, every single time somebody this was our way of keeping up with our sales for the day. We'd start with a chalkboard, and at the top of the chalkboard we had written like $10,000. $10,000 was our nut for the day, is what we had to make to break out in profit. And so if you get an order, you put one, and you reduce that $2,000 by $250. So now the number's $9,750. But every time somebody would go up and put a mark on the board, you guys say, "What'd you get? Where'd it go?" So truck of pine went to Nebraska. Truck of pine went to Nebraska. Shoot, I didn't know that stuff would even go up there. So somebody would start quoting pine in Nebraska, but it's just the synergy of what's going on in there. You can talk. Your broker could be a guy that hasn't sold anything all day long, but he can tell you what's going on all over the country. So they're great sources of information.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, with that said, the interesting thing that we have been seeing this week, and I think you and I have talked about it, is pine going way up north. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
There's some people buying it in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa that I would have never guessed. I'm like, so why are you buying it now and you never would before? They're like, well, I'm willing to give it a try, right?
Yeah, they're willing to get. It's interesting. They're willing to give it a try last year when they couldn't get anything else, and now they're willing to give it a try because it's $300 cheaper than everything else.
Right, right. At least $300 cheaper and available, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, we sent some 2x4 tens up to Wisconsin at 600 and something too and better, right? Or number one, 700. Where, and for like next week, when you and think about that, that's $300 or $400 a thousand under what the spruce price would be.
Yeah. And
Uh,
and you don't know when you're going to get it.
yeah,
I talked to guys. I talked to a new guy that's doing a trial subscription with this because he's a truss manufacturer up in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I think is where that was. And he said there was a point. There's one time last year when he's at near a border crossing point, and he said there were literally dozens and dozens of spruce trucks parked on the side of the road for literally weeks that just sat there, and the drivers were in the trucks. Yeah, they just sat there waiting for someplace to go. It was like a reload on the side of the road. He said never seen anything like it before, and that's it's interesting that those things happen. I mean, right in the middle of the peak prices last year, so $1,500-$1,700. There were trucks literally loaded on sitting on the side of the road, just waiting for somebody to buy them so they could take them off. It's just to me that's disturbing when there's that kind of stuff going on in the market. You don't know about it, and it's just there's this secretive little puddle of crap happening that just disrupts everything. But
it's almost like when the oil traders used to park vessels off the West Coast just to wait for a trade to come in, and then
yeah, they bring in the boat and I got you covered.
Yeah, yeah. So let's chat. I didn't get us prepared for this. What did you want to talk about today? What's your thought?
Well, one of the things I want to talk about was the market has. If you look at the futures market prior to today, the last 8-day closing range from it was within $20 of each other. I mean, we had some volatility. Volatility got less, but the closing ranges were within $21, $22 from beginning to end. You guys show it on my briefing chart for this week, and what it shows is the market's just basically gone into a sideways consolidation. So we've lost this upside momentum. Then we had this huge downside move. We've lost that downside momentum, and now the market's just going kind of sideways. So we're in a period of less volatility, but I think that part of that has to be that we've gotten used to the disruptions. And even the war in Ukraine, it's not like it's old business. It's still very vital and crucial and very important. But we've just gotten to a point where we just haven't had anything new in the market that's caused people to act emotionally, and that's the thing that causes the volatility is reacting irrationally and emotionally on things that most of it seems to come out of Canada about shipping or log supply or tariffs or something. It seems like all the big earth-shattering news that makes you jump off a cliff and grab your PO book with you comes out of Canada. But there's nothing really right now in the marketplace that's making anybody panic one way or the other. And if there's anything that's out there, it's the likelihood of recession because inflation keeps going higher and higher, and the Fed's moving slower on it. And we got 50 basis points yesterday, which was the stock market thought, hurrah, 50 basis points. That was a good thing, and they don't know why, but the market rallies 1,000 points. And you get up this morning and go like, well, I don't know why I was excited about it yesterday, so they give that 1,000 points back, and the market's in a funky spot of. It's almost like we need some sort of disruption to give us some energy to go and do something one way or the other.
Yeah, it's interesting. Had a conversation with a couple of people this morning. Business is good. So short-term business outlook is still really good, right? But longer term, people still have this fear of the unknown, and they have less business mentally forecasted. But the problem right now is there's plenty of inventory, it's just not in the right places. I mean,
yeah, there's no shortage of wood, and I would question the folks that say that the economy is still good. I don't know what you're using for a barometer. The economy is still good because consumer sentiment, consumer surveys say that people are not going to be spending as much money on consumer goods this summer They're going to be traveling. And it's nothing new. We've known it for 6 months that it was coming down the pike, and we can see it in the home centers are busy. I went to Home Depot and Lowe's this weekend. The parking lot was jammed full in the garden center. Nobody was yanking lumber out. There's a couple pickup truckloads with 8 pieces of lumber on it, but you don't see the trucks getting loaded out every day with there's more deliveries being made to the yards than there are from the yards. And I just think we're the folks that are saying this economy is good. They say the economy is good, then they say, well, look at all the jobs that need to be the jobs that are available. Well, but wages are higher, but wages aren't keeping up with inflation. So we're still the tail's wagging the dog, and I think the bulls in the market are being naive about what's happening in the economy. The Fed's just flat out saying they're going to put the brakes on. They're going to put a choke around my neck and make me, or around my wallet, and make me stop spending money until inflation goes down. And they're hell bent to do it, and they're going to do it. And we're seeing savings rates already declining. People are dipping into that savings. This just in a matter of weeks, things are changing. And
yeah, none of us ever really know how it's going to play out. Everything plays out differently than we expect it, and usually in a humorous way, right? I think that's what Elon Musk always said: is things always have a way of playing out in the most humorous way possible. And because I always go and think a recession is going to be like a past one, right? And this is going to happen and that's going to happen. And then you just see odd things going on. And at the end of the day, you don't really, I don't know what is going to happen. I just know short-term things feel really good. Long-term, I'm not sure, right?
Well, it feels to me like that short-term things feel okay, but the Fed's saying, I'm going to snatch that rug right out from under you. And I'm going to snatch it in a hurry, and I'm going to do it with 50 basis points interest rates rises until it stops. So I think what we're going to have is not necessarily a recession, but just a real sharp undercutting and slicing out of the market to get it back to the point where interest rates we get everybody to slow down, and then we'll whip that out, and then we'll whip interest rates back down to 2%, and we'll whip things going again. And so as far as volatility goes, what feels like there's not a lot of volatility right now is it's just a phenomenon of, I think, the market transitioning from being very good and overheated to getting just underheated or cold, and it feels like it's going to get shut off. And the response is going to have to be with the Fed. They're going to have to just chop interest rates back down again and get things going. So I think the volatility in the market is going to be just horrendous going forward.
Here's 3 different comments. So Kyle from Sherwood made a good comment. Consolidation of price and developing a defined price range is product of a more efficient marketplace. Fear of unknown still there, however, price consolidation showing that there is measurably less fear. Yeah, definitely. When you get out of when the volatility starts to collapse, that's true, Kyle. Great comment, Earl Heath. Such uncertainty among buyers, from what I hear, many keeping their inventories very low for fear of ending up with high-priced fiber, right? So there's where you take out the bottom end of the market because everybody's always got to keep coming in, right? Then Jonathan Miller brought up a point. The one thing that we do know is the money spent will need to be repaid. We will pay for the stimulus, just when. And yeah, Jonathan, that's if we don't even put more money back in, right?
That's 3 very good perspectives. The market's coming from 3 different angles.
Absolutely.
to make you just go like, this thing is just a mess.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. And look, like I said, there seems to be plenty of wood out there. The problem is it is all at the wrong end of the pipeline in many cases. From what I'm hearing is talking to Greg Riley this morning. 2x4, 104 and 5/8, perfect example, Matt. Car loads are around, somewhere 1,000 to 1,100 Boston or Great Lakes base. So you land that, you're 11 to 1150. But people are willing to pay like $1,275 to $1,300 for prompt trucks on the ground. So if you think about in a normalized market, most of the time in our career, reload wood would sometimes trade at a discount to the carload price, just because of how crazy our industry is. It is carrying such a big premium for prompt wood right now at at distribution locations, that just shows you that there's not enough wood in the pipeline right now. There
Yeah, the
continues.
market. And the interesting thing is, because just statistically, the market, if you look at what prices have done, the market by definition is underbought. When you go for a period of time, 3 to 4 weeks, and the market doesn't move, prices move down and don't move up, and the market gets underbought. And the further we go, the more we talk about recession, oversupply, loss of demand, like Earl says there, keeping low inventories. Everybody's suspecting that there's going to be something bad to happen in the economy and a slowing in housing. So anybody right now that's building a huge inventory is just asleep at the switch. They're just not doing that. So what that's going to mean is, regardless of what happens in the economy, we're going to end up underbought. So we could have conceivably we could have a market that's falling in housing, that the economy's falling, and lumber's going up simply because it's underbought. So you just got to be aware of how lumber behaves differently than regular economic cycles. And I think this, like Kyle was saying, the fear of the unknown. There's a fear. The consolidation makes some of that fear go away, but it makes people get a little complacent and not be prepared. So I'm fully expecting we're gonna get a soft spot in the economy, but it's going to snap lumber upwards because it's going to be in an underbought condition.
No, that Judy had a good point. She put on Judy Johnson's on ground, less risk, right? And true, right now you're getting a premium for on the ground, but then you talk to like some traders and they're like, you can't be out of the game. If you're out of the game and don't have any wood, you're out of the game, right? So you think about traders right now that are seeing this potentially 2 months down the road and paying $1,200 for cars based on their last 30-year history, 20-year history in the business of wood being at 400. It's frightening sometimes to buy that and take that risk, especially in a futures market that you can't really hedge it at a premium, right?
Right.
So it creates less wood on the ground, right? Because people want to stay. I heard one person told me the other day, it's kind of frustrating trying to trade your normalized trading pattern out of a small inventory, a smaller inventory than you normally have, right?
Yeah, but I think it's the right play though, based on what's happening in the economy and in the building industry. I've heard PIMCO last week called the top in the housing market, and we got builders still trying to complete a bunch of started homes. So there's a massive number of new homes coming on the market. So it doesn't look like we're going to end up the year with a short supply. We're going to at least get caught up, but it feels like everybody's playing this thing for a softness. And so right now it feels good because you don't have a lot of wood on the ground, because you're not selling a lot of wood, and there's more coming at you, or you're selling enough just to break even. But to me, that's a recipe for it's a recipe for the market getting overdone one way, another, just overdone to the downside rather than overdone to the upside.
Tony Callahan was saying here, definitely a recession coming. This doesn't end well, my friends. You can't spend more than you make forever. Maybe sooner than we think. Keep in mind, GDP contracted 1.4 last quarter. I think the economy will look a lot different a year from now. Yeah. So again, everybody's bringing a different look in. I mean, one thing as human beings, we try to stay positive on stuff, but you don't want to. You want to look at the signals and the signs, and what we did over the last 2 or 3 years, printing money, and realize that there's probably, and we had two great years in the business. Well, probably this will be a third one, but there's probably some kind of reckoning coming. Unless housing avoids all of this, and all of a sudden we're at 2.5 million homes being built next year, and lumber's at $2,000 a thousand, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to grab that. I just can't seem to get a hold of it. But
what's that? Tony?
Might be right.
What are you trying to grab, Matt?
I was trying to grab the concept of $2.5 million and $2,000 lumber, and it just kind of made my heart stop for a minute. So
yeah, that was just, but what do they always say? Things always happen when what people least expect. I think everybody's expecting a downturn in housing and lumber prices falling right now, right? Over the next.
Yeah, I think it's also another thing that we don't really have the luxury of here is, like, we see what people are saying, but we don't necessarily know what perspective they're coming from. So like like Judy and Kyle, for example, are wholesale distributors. So they're looking at it from the perspective of having wood on the ground and what's that flow like back and forth from basically from the mill to them and from them to the handlers between them and builders. Tony, for example, is the builder, so his perspective is it's interesting to see what from different perspectives what different people's angles are, and it's good to know it's good to know what everybody's thinking in different levels of the market as well.
I'd be interested. Where's Tony a builder at? I'd be interested to see what signs he's already seeing right now, right? Like,
Southern California.
So what kind of signs is he seeing in Southern California that kind of lead him to believe something's coming, right? Because he's basically boots on the ground.
Exactly.
So Tony, if you could put a couple comments in there and what you call it over there, that would be great. Anybody else that's got a comment on that?
Well, and Judy and Kyle too. So, I mean, it's from those are both different ends of the perspective.
Oh, absolutely,
spectrum.
They're in the mix of it, right? So it's good to see they're seeing it from both ends, right?
Yep. Notice they've all gone quiet, being called out too, but that's not too good.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Chris, this turnkey framer sold my production. This turnkey framer sold my production into the fall 2 months ago.
This turnkey framer sold my production in the fall 2 months ago. What does that mean, Chris, exactly?
I think he's referring to himself. We'll have to see what you mean on that one, Chris.
Does that mean you booked yourself out into fall for 2 months ago? You booked all your capacity for the next 6 months?
He probably will type that up here in a second.
Lots of opportunities. You guys will be spilling the beans.
Oh, there we go. Chris said he sold a lot of wood at the peak. So I think what he's saying is he sold a lot of his business to his turnkey framer at the and got a decent number for it.
All right.
Judy, I've been driving around mills, checking out log decks while driving past retail yards with skinny inventories. Need to see permits and starts. Okay.
So it sounds like what Judy's saying is thin inventories in the field. 2 weeks ago we were talking about how the distribution outlet was under inventoried and was waiting on stock and waiting on inventory to come in. But it sounds like that a couple of months ago everybody saw this possible weakening coming, and it looks to me like the lumber side of the industry has really played this thing very well and not gotten overstocked. And we talked about seeing a peak in prices in March rather than May this year, and I definitely think that's going to happen. I got a hamburger bet with Kip that March is going to expire lower than May. He thinks March is going to. May's going to expire higher than March. I think May's going to expire lower than March, and but it just.
One thing you always bring up, and what we've been seeing on the MX platform are a lot more sellers that weren't on before. So a lot more being mills also, and retailers and wholesalers that have extra wood and have a lot more wood they want to sell. But the one interesting thing that we've seen is a lot more premium grades and prime grades, especially in pine. That the high end stuff that normally goes to treaters,
home centers.
Number 2 prime. Number 2, it's a beautiful looking product. Number 1. We're seeing a lot more of that showing up on the platform. And if it truly is the case where, the big boxes had their big pushes in the last 2 years and they're not having as much pull through, they use such a large chunk of wood in North America, in the North American fiber basket. People have thrown out as high as 20%, all these, if not more. If they pull back a little bit, if you think about it, whenever they're processing the tenderloins, they make a lot of ground beef also, right?
Right.
So we're seeing a lot of tenderloins showing up on the platform along with a lot of the ground beef. And it's good grass-fed ground beef, right? But the point is, when mills are ramped up to push it out for the big home centers, they're going to keep pushing it out for the home centers, and it's going to go somewhere.
Let me tell you something about your beef analogy in there from what Judy says. That from offshore. Actually, no, that's not. That's domestically graded.
That's
It's
domestic truck.
pulled for the home centers.
Yeah.
There was a what's that Japanese beef? It's the real high end beef that
A koshi, the stuff that where they massage it and feed it like beer.
yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah.
There was one point last year they had so much of it they were giving it to the schools. Kobe's. That's what it was, Jory.
Yeah, there we go.
They were giving it to the school systems in Japan because they had too much of it. They're charging us $50 an ounce for it or $50 a pound for it, and giving it to the schools because they had an abundance of it. But
yeah, but the whole point is that when you set up production to facilitate, you can't run those home centers out of wood. They have to have so much every time, and when they say they want more, you got to give them more. When they say less, it's got to go somewhere else. So
yeah, the trick about that is that those home centers don't have the exposure.
correct.
It's their suppliers, their treaters that have to have the wood ready to go on a moment's notice, or their suppliers that have wholesale distribution, or mills that have reloads all around the country. And they just, I remember at the beginning of the year, the problem was the home centers couldn't get their inventory built to what they wanted it to, the levels they wanted it to be for the spring. And the mills just said, like, well, the only way I'm going to be able to get that like you wanted is you're going to have to quit buying for 2 months.
Yeah.
And now it's coming to pass. They're not buying, and the wood's going to start to back up. And you notice that the logistics, we talked about this the other day to somebody, that the logistics are an issue for people who need wood. If you don't need wood, logistics isn't an issue for you, because the trucking's getting a little better, the cars are getting a little better, but still not enough where, I heard yesterday a BC mill sold 20 cars at, I think the number was 1170 for 2x4s. It was like $90 over print or something, and it was prompt wood, but it was going to be 2 weeks or sooner to get the cars. But then you hear like people are out for 3 weeks with order file and going to be 3 weeks late for shipment. Stuff's just scattered all over the place as far as what availability really is, and what's going on with logistics as well.
Yeah, no, here's a little trading tip I learned sometimes, and it's always interesting. I'm going to get back to Kyle's comment here in a second. The way you know that, if you want to buy a 2x4 16 in a pine, you bid for the highest grade at the same price the lowest grade is trading at, and see what happens.
Yeah.
I remember always, all of a sudden you order a car 2x4 16s and you get a car 2x4 16 2100 MSR, right?
Yeah, and the guy goes, I don't really want that. I wanted,
yeah.
Don't give me that stuff to put on the job site, because that's not going to. I got to do it all the time. Same with pallet stock, getting number 2 for number 3 and number 4.
Here's Rich. Is this Richard Kavner from Dallas Fort Worth area? Speaking from a local market perspective, rental housing is at 97% occupancy, even though rent rates have risen 19% of the past year. Single-family inventory is absorbed as fast as it's built. True. Existing single-family inventory is extremely low. Population growth continues. Mortgage applications falling. Rising interest rates. All cash purchase accounts for 25% of housing transactions. Is that all cash in the rental market or all cash in any market? I guess is my question.
Texas, probably Texas, for people coming from California.
All of the above puts continued pressure to build more rental housing, multifamily and single family for rent. We'll be buying more lumber. Great point, Richard. I mean, multifamily, it's been crazy. And I saw a big push on multifamily on our platform last week, people buying. One, because they've had this stuff sold, like Chris said, they're at a higher number. So when the price drops down, this is buying in profit on the multifamily. The multifamily percentage keeps pushing away at a percentage of the single family homes, and it makes sense for a lot of the stuff that Richard said here. All cash in-house sales. Thanks, Richard. And Kyle put R&R is under substantial pressure going forward, inflation and uncertainty. Therefore, box allocations get pushed back to producer, more premium available to the open market. Yeah, kind of Kyle's first on. Kyle sees that firsthand with everything that they have flowing through their multiple distribution points. If you
remember back in 2020 when the pandemic started, the first thing that got tabled was all this multifamily stuff where these guys were getting framing packages were doubled. They said, no, can't do it.
Yeah.
So they didn't go away. They just got tabled until they got reconsidered. Maybe the prices got adjusted some, or the developers just said, look, there's still a demand for it. We can get 20% more rent, so we can pay more. But there's a lot of stuff that was out there that just it didn't go away. It just got side shuffled for just a bit, but it's still there.
I was curious with what Richard's saying. He'll buy more lumber. Would Richard? Would you buy the lumber to cover all your projects at these numbers right now, going out for the next year? If that's as far as they are, I'm just curious because I'm seeing that from some people looking to lock in risk on a lot of stuff. Does that make sense? That question, Matt?
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, because it's a crapshoot. You know, so at some point somebody gets the order. You know, the developer says, I'm ready. This is my project. It's May the 5th. I want to give the order today. I need the lumber in September.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Richard, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just more curious if he's buying more on the spot market or if he's going out and locking it in longer term.
Or just waiting.
Yeah. No, everyone here is expecting prices to fall, and we are waiting out as long as possible.
Yeah, that's where my caution flag goes up. That's a bigger pool of pent up demand building, and at some point you got money in them, you got to buy them, and the way the mills have been with prices, and whatever causes that volatility, but you can see $700 drops in OSB. You can see a $700 pop in OSB just as well.
No, Rich, that's great, Richard. I appreciate you putting it out there, and that feedback is great. And I've been hearing a little bit more of that. Like Matt said, I was one of those thinking there'd be a bigger sell-off, and kind of questioned myself on that a little bit, right? Because I find myself in the camp of everybody else thinking that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, Matt, we're up against 30 minutes here, so I thought that was a great conversation today, and that was.
Yeah, thank you guys for participating. That makes a lot of difference when you get the feedback from you guys out in the field and firsthand information.
And I think everybody that was on all the different streams listening were able to, I know listening to everybody else talk when they're boots on the ground, whether they're distribution, wholesale, home builder. None of us talk enough together. We go to conventions and listen to stuff and all that, but like this is kind of a free form thing, so we can it's kind of a free form thought process off here, and it really helps us all kind of noodle on some things and figure it out a little bit. I got a lot out of it.
Yeah, I did too. I appreciate you guys sharing.
And Richard, and Kyle, and Judy, and Chris, and everybody that actually, it takes 3 or 4 people to get off the fence to start commenting for everybody else to feel comfortable doing it. So thank you very much for everybody putting in their comments today. So if you want to get a hold of Matt, I'll put up Matt's comment at Layman's Lumber Guide. Now, Matt, did you close your stuff for your for your group that you had going?
Yeah, we started it. We have about 23 people in it. It's called an Inner Circle Masterclass, and really what we're looking at is the things that cause you from acting decisively. It's not necessarily how to do the lumber market, how to figure out what's going to happen. Yeah, we're just talking about inventory strategies, but really there's a lot of psychological stuff to get you over the hump to act on what you already know.
And I had somebody along for the ride. I had my shadow back here today.
Yeah, saw that.
If you want to come to Materials Exchange, mxlumber.com. Everybody that's on this call should be on our platform. If you buy lumber or sell lumber, there's no cost to be on. Eventually here, we're going to work on having some longer term pricing on it also. Right now, we're doing spot pricing. It's mxlumber.com. You go to that, click on Get Started. We'll get you registered on buying and selling. Matt has had a lot of people. Some of your people today, Matt, we're buying pine. So,
here's it's interesting. The whole concept is like when nobody had lumber to sell, the mills weren't on here, and there were buyers. It was just buyers looking and getting frustrated because nobody's quoting them. They're getting numbers that are $400 between quotes, and now we're in a situation where the mills need to sell. What we need to show the mills, or what you guys as buyers need to show the mills, that it's a good platform for them to be on to sell their product in good times and bad times.
Well, here,
So that
one thing I wanted to give the biggest counter we get a lot of times is why should I be on here when I have salespeople that can already sell? It's like if you think that way, you probably shouldn't be because you're not thinking forward. I mean, if you want to sell to more people and get information back from the market in a quicker way than any human being can do to that many people, human beings should still be talking together. But if you're not using technology to grow your company, I don't think you're thinking correctly. You know, materials exchange, what it will do is help you reach more people on the buy and the sell side. And we have people on both. Then anybody could pick up the phone. Think about this: if you could pick up the phone and call 100 people in 1 minute, you can't do it, and get instantaneous.
when you were trading, I remember we used to have quotas for like number of phone calls a day. Sometimes it was 30, sometimes it was 50, and you go like, there's no physical way I can make 50 good quality phone calls in a day, or give 50 good quotes, or get 50 good inquiries. But you can do that here. You can do that on the exchange in minutes.
Jonathan Miller just said he bought his first load on MX last week. Jonathan, I appreciate that. And, you know, Mike was in some people's office last week asking them to get on and sell on here. And their thing was, why should I do that? I already have people that are doing it. Well, you should do it so you can do it better and make more money at the end of the day and improve the industry and actually grow the technology in your company. That's why I think people should do it.
Considered a no-cost salesperson.
Exactly. That's exactly. So you can do more with less. I mean, I don't know anybody in life that doesn't do that at the grocery store or anything, right?
Nicely done, guys.
I'm a big couponer. All right, man. Well, everybody, thank you very much for coming to the to Lunch with Lumbermen today with Matt Lehman and Ashley Buckhold. Tomorrow, Mike at 12 o'clock has the Friday Smart Call. Go to any of our social media, to our LinkedIn Materials Exchange LinkedIn account, and check it out. Our YouTube page, our Twitter page. You'll find out who we've got on tomorrow. But and then we start the whole rotation again Monday, 12 o'clock. Charles De La Torre and I do Cutting Edge. Tuesday, Mike does futures from the free seats with Greg Kuda. Wednesday, Matt Beamer, Greg Riley, and myself. We got a special guest, Russ Taylor, next Wednesday. Also, we'll be talking about some of the European market after he came back from Europe. And Matt and I will then do our show 7 days from today again, and hopefully we'll have some more good customer interaction on the side.
Thanks, guys, for coming.
Thank you, everybody.